My name is Angela Straubel and I teach 6th grade science. Because I teach 6th grade science, this is my first ever Procedure 3 MISCU analysis. In order to conduct a Procedure 3 MISCU analysis, you must first choose a student, then you choose a text, then you must get a type script. Either you type your own type script, create your own type script, or you find one on the internet. I found my type script on the Watson Literacy Center website. You must then have a retelling guide. I made my own retelling guide in this case. Then you must tape the reading in an effort to go back and mark your miscues. Also, the taped reading is used to help code your sentences, to complete the reading profile, and then from there, I was able to identify strengths and weaknesses from my reader. I will show you each of these steps. The first step, as I stated previously, was to choose your reader. I chose Brianna. Brianna is a 6th grade student in my science class. I would say she is an average student who tries very hard in everything she does. She has been in Title I reading and Read 180 since she was in 1st grade, so she has received reading instruction. I gave Brianna several choices of books, and she chose A Single Shard by Linda Sue Park. So that's the book she chose to read. So after we have chosen a student, we have chosen the text to read. I asked Brianna to complete a series of interview questions called the Burke's Reading Interview, and the following things are what stood out to me as Brianna answered these questions. Brianna comes across a little timid and unconfident with herself. She looks at her older brother as a role model for good reading. When I asked her if she thought she was a good reader, she answered very quickly by saying yes, because she gets 90 to 100% on her reading tests, which honestly that surprised me because she does appear to be not very confident in herself. Because I teach a content area, I teach science, I asked her what helps her in that area, and she said she liked when I gave notes and when there was a textbook as a resource. The following pages are her reading inventory written in more detail. The next page is the retelling guide. So after I made an audio of Brianna reading, she just read chapter 1 from the book A Single Shard. After the audio, I had Brianna answer the questions on this retelling guide, and since this retelling guide is more surface level, I then asked her 3 more extended questions. The first one I asked is, did you like the story and why? And her answer was, it was okay. I feel like this because the book has a lot of action in it. The second question I asked was, would you have changed any part of the story? And she said no. I would like to have learned more about Tree Man and Crane Man's relationship, though. And then 3, do you think the author is a good writer and why or why not? And she says, I think the author is an okay writer because she is good at teaching lessons through her writing. The next page are the transcripts, the type scripts from her reading. The thing that I noticed is that, for instance, in line 6, she substitutes words for unknown words for other words. She makes no attempt at sounding them out. She just seemed to look at the first letter and come up with a word, sometimes a nonsense word that began with the same letters. So she substituted bulping for bulging and pouch for porch. So those are a couple examples. And like I said, the following pages are her type scripts that show she's doing that. When I get to line 24, This was a repeated miscue that she made. She substituted this word, although it is in a different language, she substituted it for Jilly. And another common substitution or miscue that she made is she often added suffixes or she took them off. Okay, and as you see as I go through her type scripts, you can see that she often does that. However, I did notice as she got more used to the reading and more comfortable with it, she did start to self-correct herself a little more. And there are several pages of this because she had to read the entire chapter. Another, again, common miscue that she did was the first letter substitution, slats for stouts, explained for examined. And then you can see how that continues. Okay. And then she would come up, like I said, with substitutions that were almost nonsense words, like sluggery. And she had a lot of pausing toward the end as well. You can see throughout her pages she had some pauses. Okay, and again, the same type of substitutions. She just changed the ending mark, but all the substitutions were always had the same beginning letter. This is her miscue tally form, and she has 6 pages of miscues. Again, she had to read a whole entire chapter because she's a 6th grade reader. But if you notice in each of these pages, most of her miscues had a high graphic similarity. So that's how most of her miscues were high in graphic similarity. And you can see how it changed. Most of them did not change the meaning, or they partially changed the meaning. So as I continue through these, the same patterns apply to each page. In fact, as she got closer to the end of reading, she did better at getting higher graphic similarity, and but she stayed the same in no meaning change or partial meaning change. It was about the same. Here's the final page. Okay, here is her tally form, her reading profile. And the thing I want to draw attention to is that she got a 98 on her retelling guide. She had a total number of 140 miscues tallied. 14% of those were self-corrected. I'm sorry, 14 were self-corrected, 1%. 39% of them were uncorrected with no meaning change, 14 uncorrected with partial meaning change, and 2 uncorrected with meaning change. Her total number of miscues coded for graphic similarity was 76, which meant that 46% of her miscues had a high graphic similarity and 8 had some. Up here, when you look at the syntactic acceptability, 96% of her miscues were acceptable. Somatic acceptability, 82% of her miscues were acceptable. From there, I have drawn the following conclusions. Brianna's strengths is her comprehension is 98% after the reading. She draws on her background knowledge. She can retell events in the correct order. Her miscues are of graphic similarity 76% of the time, and somatic acceptability 82% of the time, and syntactic acceptability 96% of the time. Some of the weaknesses I found in Brianna's reading is that she reads at a very slow rate. She reads very, very slow. She also changes unknown words to words that start with the same letter or nonsense words. She does not use phonics to sound out unknown words. She does not show inflection in her voice. You cannot tell when the character is excited or asking a question. And the graphic information from the words are not utilized. Some needs I feel for Brianna as she continues to grow as a reader is that Brianna should be taught to try to think about what makes sense here strategy before she reads the word, that she should use the sounded out strategy when encountering unfamiliar words. She also needs to make sure that it makes sense. Is it really a word? She also needs to, her miscues with high or some graphic similarity had most of the letters in common at the end of the sentences. Her inflection should be practiced with fluency activities. And being exposed to materials with a variety of content and diverse cultures will help better understanding of various literacy styles. This was a multicultural book, and I think if Brianna had been exposed to those various cultures more, it would help in her understanding. Also, my last need for Brianna is I would teach Brianna how to engage in the retrospective miscue analysis herself. And this strategy would help her learn how to become a more meta-linguistic and metacognitive reader. Okay, and here are my references that I used for the reports that were in my Procedure 3 miscue analysis. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope that this has helped you.